So last weekend and the weekend before that as well, there were some Battlefield 6 BR playtests in Battlefield Labs apparently, and there is a hell of a lot of leaked gameplay out there all over Twitter and I'm sure all over Reddit. And we've learned a hell of a lot about this game mode from all of those leaks. A lot of this was information that we didn't really know prior. And so today I wanted to run you guys through all of the key details that we learned about the BR mode over the past few weeks. Now, as I always say, when it comes to talking about leaks, I'm not going to be showing the actual gameplay here just because I don't want the channel to get taken down or anything like that. If you want to see the actual gameplay and stuff that I'm talking about, I found all of this info from a guy called Bob Network UK on Twitter. So be sure to go and check out his profile if you want to see all the snippets yourself. But obviously, for, I guess, security reasons, I will not be actually showing the gameplay in today's video. I also wanted to mention I haven't played the BR. I know I've had some early preview stuff with the LA trip and then playing Mirak Valley early and stuff like that. But I wanted to confirm to you guys, this isn't like info coming from me and I'm just pretending I've seen it from someone else. I genuinely haven't played the BR. So all of this is just based on stuff that I've seen on Twitter. Now, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is actually the destruction, because weirdly enough, the destruction in the BR looks almost entirely different than how it looks in the actual multiplayer. And I don't mean different in terms of like the physics are different or anything like that. It just looks like it's been taken to another level. Now, I don't know if we'll eventually get some of this in regular multiplayer or if they're purposely keeping this just for the BR. But realistically, just take the destruction from multiplayer that we all know from the beta and consider that to be on steroids, because it is genuinely way more impressive for some reason in the Battle Royale. Now, I've seen multiple clips now of full-on building destruction. So this isn't just like the walls being blown out like we have seen in the actual multiplayer. This is like how it used to be in Battlefield 4, for example, where if you blow up the like lower levels of a building, the entire building will genuinely crumble to the ground. So it's not just the walls falling out, it is the entire structure just essentially ceases to exist anymore. And it is really, really impressive. Now, I'm talking here about like 6, 7, 8 story buildings. I'm not talking like a double story building that's falling over. There's one clip I saw where some sort of artillery strike hit the building and it literally just the entire thing collapsed to the ground. And it didn't look like Levolution either, where it's like on rails. It looked like it's genuinely just how it was in Battlefield 4, where obviously that game had Levolution, but there were certain buildings too that you could just shoot out the lower levels. Once all those walls were taken out, the entire building would just collapse, and that seems to be back in BR, which is very exciting to see. That's one thing about this Battle Royale that I think is going to be very different, is that in games like Warzone, for example, there might be a team that is just like camping on a rooftop that's in a really good strategic position, and that team kind of has a huge advantage, which, to be fair, they got up there first, so that's like part of the game. It's not an issue. But if you're opposing that, it can be kind of annoying to be like, okay, well, that team's in the better spot and they're probably going to kill us. Well, in the Battlefield version, we can just be like, all right, I'm going to blow that building up, and they don't have somewhere to hide out anymore. So I think this is going to be awesome. Hopefully it doesn't bring like performance issues and stuff with it, because it was like really impressive from what I saw. It was, again, proper destruction, bigger than anything that we'd seen in the multiplayer, which again kind of speaks volumes, because I thought the destruction in multiplayer was already really, really good. Now, moving on, there is also a lot of gameplay of the squad redeploy towers, and this is how we're essentially going to be able to get our teammates back into the match. And overall, it looks pretty similar actually to Apex. So for any of you who have played a lot of Apex, I'd imagine this is going to work in a pretty similar manner. Now, the way that they have confirmed it is that everyone gets one free redeploy when you enter a game. So that means you can essentially land, and if you get killed, like, that's fine, you'll just spawn back in. But once that free redeploy is gone, after that, obviously you're done for good until your teammates can redeploy you. And that is done by heading to these squad redeploy towers that look to be pretty big, and you've essentially got to stand there within the circle. Once you actually like initiate the redeploy, there'll be a little circle on the ground, and it seems like you've got to stay within that circle for about 30 seconds actually. So this isn't a quick process. If you want to get your teammates back, you are going to have to stand there for 30 seconds out in the open, and apparently this does mark you on the map as well. So it is going to be pretty hard, unfortunately, to get teammates back. Now, part of me kind of likes that. I think that they're going for a really like brutal BR here, where it's going to be difficult. It's not like Warzone, for example, where I play Warzone still every week, and like that game is now kind of easy. People just sprint around like psychos, and we're all trying to get high kill games and stuff, and it's just not a hard battle royale in the original sense of the term, where back in the day you had to play strategically, you had to like slow down a little bit. It's not really like that anymore, but it feels like they are going for that in this BR, where things are going to be pretty difficult and you can't just run around like a maniac, or else you will probably get squad wiped. And yeah, I think some people won't like that, but for me, I'm actually really interested to see how it goes. Now, I also saw some little snippets on Twitter too of the actual ring itself, the ring of fire that is essentially the circle in this game. And one thing that is really good to know is that you get a warning on your screen with how close the ring is. So it will actually say like 3 meters away, and if you walked a meter closer, it will obviously tick down to 2 meters. That is really, really good, because outside of that actual HUD, the ring does look a little bit confusing, because like in a game like Warzone, for example, and to be honest, this is the case with Fortnite, Apex, PUBG, all of the BRs that I've played, the rings are very defined. You can very clearly see, again, taking it back to Warzone, where the gas is, where it starts and where it ends. It's not like an actual gas cloud, it is literally just a ring. And obviously it's a bit unrealistic, but it's good because you can tell exactly where that gas starts. The ring of fire in this game doesn't look like that. It looks like it is a bit more realistic, where it is just like the map is slowly catching on fire, and so there's not like a defined ring so much as it is like when you get close to the ring, it almost blends from the regular map into slowly more and more fire, and it's hard to tell where the actual ring is itself. So it's good to see that they have added a warning so that you can tell exactly how far you are from the ring, because we obviously know this ring is an instant kill, which is going to be insane. So I'm glad they have given us a proper warning, because I was a little bit concerned that like you might accidentally step into the fire without really knowing you're in the fire yet, but this hopefully should fix that. Something else I noticed as well is that not only is it an instant kill with the ring itself, but you do seemingly start to take a little bit of damage near the edge of it too. So it's instant once you're technically out in the actual fire, but once you're getting close to it, the edges of the map are also sort of on fire a little bit, and you will just start to take a little bit of tick damage. It's not a whole lot, it's just enough to kind of let you know you shouldn't be in that area. So I thought that was interesting too, and hopefully that all leads to a very defined ring where we're not accidentally stepping out into the actual ring itself. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are interested in more Battlefield 6 content, especially when it comes to the BR stuff, I'm obviously going to be covering All Out Warfare plenty as well. But if you guys are interested in BR, since we're talking about that today, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I am definitely planning a lot of BR content as a big Battle Royale guy myself, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled for all of that content. Now, moving on, something else that is very exciting to see from these recent leaks is essentially the loadout system in this game. Now, it is pretty similar to Warzone, but it isn't an entire loadout. So in a game like Warzone, apologies to keep referring to Warzone, that's just the one that I played the most, you will get loadout drops for those who haven't played, and you essentially get a primary weapon, a secondary weapon, 2 gadgets in terms of like a tactical gadget and a grenade, for example, and then you also get 3 perks with it too. So you get a full-on loadout in Warzone. That is not going to be the case in the Battlefield 6 BR, which I personally think is a good thing. Instead, with these loadout drops, they're essentially called the custom weapon drops. Instead, you just get one single weapon. You don't get gadgets, you don't get perks or anything like that. And again, I think that that is actually a really good change, because it kind of keeps a bit of the RNG elements of a BR, which is what BR is generally known for, but also you do still get one custom weapon. And I think that is a good middle ground where you're not entirely relying on just luck with the loot that you get, but you do also have to still have a bit of luck, because you might get your favorite primary weapon, but maybe all of the ground loot sucks, or maybe you get the best weapon in the game. There is still that RNG element, which realistically, like I said, that is kind of what BRs are all about at the end of the day. Now, it seems like you can create 7 custom weapons to choose from at any given time in these custom weapon drops. So this will most likely be separate from actual multiplayer. You can just build 7 different weapons with the attachments that you want and stuff like that. And they sort of drop in these like missile shaped capsules. They'll come from the sky, they'll crash into the ground, and something that I thought was really, really cool, and this is a great design decision in my opinion, is that they create a divot in the ground that you can actually take cover in, which is awesome. So obviously the downside to being in a loadout is that you're there, you're accessing your weapons, but that means that you're kind of sitting there as a sitting duck for a second. But because it creates that little divot in the ground, it means that if you're in a pretty tough situation, you can just go prone and you'll be down in like a little crater essentially that the missile has formed, and it just gives you that little bit of extra cover. So I thought that was a really good touch. That to me shows they are really thinking outside the box a little bit with stuff in this BR, which I think is pretty much necessary for it to do well. Now, from what I can gather, they seem to drop later in the match for everyone. So again, similar to Warzone, it will just drop for everyone at a certain point in the match, but you can also get them earlier by doing specific missions, which are essentially the equivalent of contracts in Warzone. And it seems the ones you do to get these custom weapon drops are similar to bounties in Warzone, where you're given an enemy team, it'll locate them roughly on the map, and then you have to go and kill them to actually complete the mission. Now, I actually really like this because in Warzone, it is way too easy to get a loadout. It can genuinely, sometimes within like a minute of landing in the game, you can get a loadout if your teammates are all playing together. And it means there's really no risk, and that's sort of why everyone eventually has their custom weapons. Whereas in this BR, it seems like you're going to have to actually take a risk. You're going to have to go and fight an enemy team who they might just be way better than you. And you might go in there thinking, all right, we'll kill this team, we'll get our custom weapons, and then you just get absolutely stomped. There is actually a risk to it now, which I think is a really good thing. It means that if you want to get those custom weapons, it's not just an easy trade-off. You do kind of have to think, okay, are we equipped to go and do this right now? Maybe we should just leave it and just continue playing with our ground loot. So to me, I'm actually really happy with that change, and I think it is going to benefit the game quite a bit. And lastly, we've also seen some snippets where you can seemingly pick up attachments for ground loot as well, which is similar to Apex. So you could have like an MP5 that's just a standard MP5 that you found on the ground, but then you might find a chest that has like a red dot sight in it, and then you can actually attach that similar to how it is in Apex. So again, I think that is a really solid touch. Now, lastly, just for some final little like random tidbits that I noticed, one thing is that everyone spawns in with one armor plate slot. So you have the ability to have one armor plate right off the bat as soon as you load into a game, but you can then find an upgrade for a second armor plate as ground loot as well. So I think that's a good thing. Now, keep in mind that could also be bad if they're really hard to find, because that could then become really overpowered. I personally actually prefer how it is in Warzone, where everyone can have the same amount of armor, but then you can find satchels that allow you to like carry more armor with you to replace your armor and stuff. I think that would have been a better way to do it, because this does change the time to kill a little bit, and if you early on get a second armor plate and no one else can have one, then you're obviously going to win like every gunfight, and that can be a little bit frustrating. I've also seen some people say that the time to kill seemed pretty fast actually, which I really do hope that they change that up in the future. I think BRs need to have a slightly longer time to kill, just because it is such high stakes, and if you just get absolutely beamed and you can't really even react to it, that can be really annoying. And lastly, the final point that I wanted to make is that the map looks really cool from what I can tell. I obviously haven't seen the entire map or anything, but it looks really cool. I think it's based in LA, just going off old leaks, but I'm not entirely sure. But overall, it looks like, so far anyway, a pretty decent map. So I'm keen to jump in there myself and actually experience it, because to me, the map is pretty much the most important part of any Battle Royale. Overall though, I am honestly so hyped by all of this stuff that I've seen all over Twitter. I'm surprised they honestly haven't taken this all down by now. This is still up like weeks later. So again, if you want to check it out, go and check out Bob Network UK on Twitter. That's where I found all of this stuff. But to me, it actually looks really interesting. Now, if I had to compare how it looks to other Battle Royales, it honestly kind of looks like if Apex and Warzone had a baby in terms of some of their mechanics and stuff like that, but with Battlefield 6 gameplay and destruction, which we obviously already know from the beta is awesome. So to me, that sounds really interesting. It's taken some little bits from Warzone, some little bits from Apex, but then it is the gameplay that we sort of expect from Battlefield 6 with some insane destruction. And yeah, I think it is potentially a recipe for success. It obviously needs to launch really well. They need to have a lot of good content and stuff, but I think this could genuinely be a really good BR if it is handled properly. Now, I know that not everyone is interested in the BR, but for me, I am very keen for it. I'm a big Battle Royale guy. I love me some regular Battlefield as well, to be honest. Battlefield, just regular, you know, all-out warfare, conquest and stuff like that. That is my bread and butter. That's what I've always loved since essentially when I was a kid. But over the last 5 years or so, I have really fallen in love with BR, and to me, the prospect of having Battle Royale combined with Battlefield, to me, that is just like so exciting. So I am very keen for the BR. I do have concerns about it, and I've voiced concerns in previous videos, so be sure to go and check that out. But yeah, overall, I am definitely very excited, and I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts as well, based on all of the stuff that I've said. So be sure to leave a comment down below. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.